Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there osia dem yopo.
Memo akwaba edeba PENDREAM TV semester say nani dey can out here. Be subscribe to channel no click the bell so say the news to our on sabet me can intimate. Manaseh Azure or investigative journalist. A scandal this year were exposed for 13 billion lie. In GH any SML company no extra almost Ghana from 13 billion. Sikanke rafa toward GM. Nano na Manaseh more debate to just a no crack. Nano nano power Metro Ghana, Metro TV sono good morning Ghana. Randy Abbey any Manaseh exclusive interview at the first Xp0sÉ we one or cast far quite or far so who say so or yes I di money quite far so ye and mu men casabe brave video no I am called near TSA interview.
This latest work of yours, I'm speaking of our fourth estate, and there were two others who you worked on this documentary with. First of all, what informed this work? What motivated this work?
Thank you, Randy. Yes, over the years, if you look at the media reports coming from the downstream petroleum sector, there have been many instances when the GRA and the MPA have come out to say that companies, that's oil marketing companies, that back petroleum product sell at the filling station, often lift, sell, and then abscond with taxes. And they explain that every liter of fuel you buy, there are taxes and margins that are embedded in it. So what these companies are supposed to do is to go and sell the product, take their profit, and then take the tax component and the margins component and pay to the government. But a lot of them don't do that. So the GRA has been publishing figures of companies that lifted the film product and didn't pay the MPA in recent times. I think under the leadership of Mr. Lee has been blacklisted a number of them. And this has gone on for a long time, and we decided to do a comprehensive documentary to understand what is being done to curtail it so that these perennial problems could cease. It was when we got in that we realized that a company that has strong backing from the Ministry of Finance is actually creating more problems than these OMCs. And I say this because the OMCs that are owing, the problem they have created in terms of financial loss to Ghana cannot compare with what this company called Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited. So the initial thing was to look at the sector in general and see how authorities were dealing with it. But when we got in and realized what was happening with this company, we decided to pay more attention to it. And to our suspicion, the company itself couldn't stand by the things it seemed to be doing and taking payment.
For the benefit of those who haven't watched your documentary or have watched it and still do not get what really it is about, what were your key findings? What would you consider to be your key findings?
The key findings are these. One, there were problems in the downstream petroleum sector. And we're talking about the part that deals with the refinery, the transportation, the consumption of petroleum products from the depots to the filling station. These problems were mainly through diversion, dilution, under declaration or under reporting, and also OMCs or oil marketing companies such as the Goil, the Allied, and others. That these are not the reporting companies, but I just want to explain what the OMCs mean. They lift the product, a number of them, and they do not pay the government taxes or margins. So these were the main problems. Now, how were these problems being addressed? both the NPA, National Petroleum Authority, and the GRA confirmed that in 2018 they introduced something they call the Enterprise Relational Database Management System, the ERDMS. And this system is an electronic platform that has all the players on this platform. And what it does is that if you want to place an order for petroleum products anywhere in the country, you go through this system. And once you owe taxes and margins and you have not paid, the system is able to stop you from loading. The GRA is on that system, the NPA is on that system, and all the others. So what the GRA told us in this documentary was that once the ERDMS was introduced, it ensured that they are able to account for value, because whatever you let, even the placement, if you are ordering 50,000 liters, it has to be on the system. Everybody can see the processes, and once you let it, it's recorded. So what the GRA, head of petroleum, one Samson Elim, who is in the documentary, said, once you're able to account for your volumes, then that means you're able to account for your taxes, the revenue. Then also there is a system to track diversion. That's those who lifted the product and said they were taking it to the landlocked countries such as Burkina Faso, Mali, or even parts of West Africa, but ended up selling here. The NPA introduced a tracking system, an electronic cargo tracking system, that if you lift a product, they have 2 seals for each compartment. If you indicate on the order that you are discharging in Bonga and then you open to discharge in Manaseh, it will trigger an alarm and the monitoring system can locate you and then you be dealt with. Then also they have the well marking system that deals with dilution, and this is a means to check dilution and also smuggling of product into the market. So these, according to players in the industry, both the GRA, NPA, and also some private operators at the depots, said that are measures that are adequate in dealing with the problem. Yet, we discovered this company called Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited, SML. And this company was making claims that it was saving the state 3 billion cedis. That in the 2 years of its operation, that's how much it saved. It is instructive to note that even before the company started its operation, the finance minister, Ken Oforiatta, when he was launching the operations of the company, actually said the state was losing 2 to 3 billion cedis, and this is what the company's entrance into the space had kept. This was in 2020, even before the company started. Now, when we confronted this company with the evidence that we took figures of revenue from the Ghana Revenue Authority, the GRA, from 2012 to 2022, a 10-year period, and then we realized that there has always been growth. There has always been growth. So 2012, you had a 532 million, 2013, 583, 2014, you had 600 million, 2015 had 2.2 billion, 2016 had 2.9 billion, 2017, 4 billion, 2018, 4.6 billion, 2019, 5.2 billion, then 2020, you have 6 billion, 2021, 6.9 billion, and 2022, 7.6 billion. So we started 500,000 in 2012, and by 2022, the 10th year, we had 7.6 billion. These are figures from the Ghana Revenue Authority, and it shows continuous growth in the sector. So when they started, for the first 8 years, this company wasn't there. The first 8 years, SML was not in the picture, but that didn't mean there wasn't growth. So we have from 2012 of 500,000, and then 2019 we have 5 billion. This was before the company came. So you cannot say that these figures are yours. And then also we even did a calculation and realized that if you added all the gains made since the company came in, we have 2.4 billion and not 3 billion. So when the managing director decided to argue with this, and I pointed out these figures to him, he actually admitted, saying that, look, these figures, I don't even know how they came about. And then I said, oh, but it is what you said. He said, well, it was the media that got it wrong. And I reminded him that, look, actually speak, the thing is on your website. So if Daily Graphic reported that you saved 3 billion, and you claim that you called Daily Graphic to complain about the wrong report. And when we were doing this interview, officials of the GRA, the petroleum sector, were there, and they also said that, look, we were even surprised when we saw this figure. So the GRA officials, SML officials, were unanimous that this figure was inaccurate, and you heard the man in this documentary. It is the reason we didn't put all these figures in the documentary, because you don't go on proving something which has already been admitted false. So it is so strange now that the documentary is out, GRA is coming back to insist that they say this figure. Then also, the other major finding here is that the company, SML, claimed to be checking under reporting, under diversion and dilution, and general non-compliance in the downstream sector. These are services the company listed on its website as performing for the GRA in order to make those savings. And we started this process at the NPA. We went to the depots, and by the time we got to SML, we were convinced that this company couldn't be making those, providing those services. So we confronted the managing director, and even before we confronted them, we had confronted GRA, and GRA said, no, this company is not doing those services. So the morning we had an interview with SML, the GRA officials actually said, look, when Manaseh and his team came to us, they said these are the services we were conducting. We have no knowledge of them. So let's clarify this before we even begin the interview. Then the SML management again admitted that those claims were false, and they went ahead to delete them from the website. Now, if you claim to be providing certain services that are saving revenue, and then we confront you and then you admit that you are not providing those services that are the solution to the revenue leakages, then what basis do you have to still insist that you're providing those services? And finally, there is a general knowledge or consensus in the sector that the leakages were happening after the product was lifted. And the value chain down to the filling station, and all those are the places that we had these problems. Note that SML doesn't operate here. SML is only at the depots, the fuel depots. And then we have the GRA, the petroleum sector, telling us that even without this system, it is almost impossible to lose product at the depot level. So what the GRA said is that, or what this implies is that SML is actually placed at a point that you don't have the problems we were having. And we asked SML, have you ever detected any wrongdoing under the declaration or anything? They said, no, we don't even do that. Then also, finally, the GRA uses the figures that are recorded by meters at the loading gantry. These figures go through the NPS ERGMS, and the ERGMS linked to customs system. So SML claims to be doing revenue assurance for the GRA by measuring volumes of petroleum product that's lifted. But Randy, what this is you employ somebody to give you figures. But when it comes to calculating your taxes, you don't use that company you have employed. You don't use the figures they churn out. You use the existing figures from the loading country. Even as we speak, GRA, when they are calculating revenue, they don't use the figures SML churns out. They use the figures from the loading country. And then we have all of these things being said by GRA and SML officials in the documentary. So this is not somebody's opinion. If you watch the documentary, there are specific questions. So now the question we ask, why the SML figures were not being used? They said that the loading country meters, those that were there before SML came in, are actually more accurate than the SML meters. And I posed a direct question to the head of engineering at SML, one Hamdan Abubakar, and then he actually admitted that these are non-contact meters, but the contact meters are the best. They take more accurate readings. So it isn't strange that SML's readings are not the ones the GRA uses for these services. So by the time we were leaving, it was almost very clear that this company is not needed in the value chain of the downstream petroleum sector. But the biggest shock was when the finance ministry directed the GRA to now take the services of this company to the upstream. That's where we drill and then we produce oil and also the gold mining sector. And we have spoken to experts in the industry who say that there are already flow meters that ensure that the government of Ghana, through the GRA, is able to know how much we make, and then they put taxes on them. We spoke to people too in the mining sector who say that, look, when you go to the gold road, you have GRA customs officials there, and you have officials of EMNC. They actually test the gold bars to know the specific amount of gold, real gold that is in those bars. So you have two state institutions stationed there to police the process and assure the revenue for the government. So they are asking, if you are bringing SML, are you going to say that GRA, PMNC, get out and then let this company come and do the work? And if you are taking SML to the oil production sectors, are you going to now take the GRA officials, the GMPC, and all the state institutions that have interest there to ensure that the government is not short-changed? Are you going to get them out? Or are you saying that GRA officials, the customs officials we have at all the warehouses, because they say the depots are warehouses, and you cannot lift the petroleum products at the depots unless you're certified by customs, the GRA. Are you saying that they are so incompetent or so corrupt that without this company coming in, you were going to lose 3 billion? And where was that 3 billion going to go? It is like saying that, okay, in 2020 or 2023, Ghana has more cars on our street than 2020 or 2019. And somebody said, oh, they have more cars on our street because we were at the port counting the number of cars that come into the country. You don't import the cars, you have not provided incentive for anybody to bring in the cars. But what SML and GRA are saying is that we have more cars this year than 2 years ago because they have got somebody there who counts the number of cars that come into the country. And was there somebody doing the counting? Yes, NPA also is doing the counting. NPA and then these people who does more accurate counting. The company that does the counting actually says that the existing system where accurate. And that brings you to the figures we've been talking about. This new contract says that of every barrel of fuel that is produced, SML is getting $0.75, and we currently produce between 160,000 to 170,000 barrels a day. What this means is that a day, every single day of production, SML will make 120,000 US dollars. 120,000 US dollars every single day from this production. 120,000 US dollars is more than 1 million Ghana cedis as we speak. But this is how much the company will be making. Then, in the gold mining sector, they are supposed to make 0.75% of total production. And Ghana produced 3.7 million ounces of gold last year, and each ounce is sold. If you look at the Finance Ministry's budget statement, an ounce is sold for $1,800. So if you do the calculation, this company will be walking away with 50 million US dollars from the gold sector alone, without adding any value. If you read the statement from the GRA, they claim that this company will be paid on value addition. So if they don't add value, no money will be paid, which is false, because once there is production in the oil sector, once there is production in the gold sector, they're going to be paid. Once people go to lift fuel from our depots every day, this company makes money. So if you look at the downstream sector, the upstream sector, and the gold sector, this company should be making over 100 million United States dollars every year. And we are even learning that there are two other contracts that this company has with the GRA to do external price verification and also some price auditing at the ports. So the problem, or what we are losing to this company, may actually be far more than we have put out. We only use conservative figures in our estimation, but it appears to be worse than we. These are just the findings.
Right. Now, Manaseh, let me ask you this. Now, in the course of your work, this particular documentary, did you ever come across, or were you confronted with any piece of evidence to suggest that, for example, the ERDMS gave a figure of, let's say, 300 million liters, but the SML system that had been put in place had a figure of, let's say, 310 million liters, and therefore, but for the SML system, we would have not been able to account for, let's say, 10 million liters. Did you ever come across something like that? Did they ever show you any piece of evidence to suggest that the SML system gave us figures more than what the existing figures produced?
Randy, this is a very good question. And the answer is no. SML actually, in 1 year, our Office of Operation released a statement that said that, look, when we started operating for 6 months, we realized that what we're churning out was conforming with the MPA's figures, which means our system is good. This is a release that is out there. Maybe after this interview, I will send you this report. So you are brought in to check a supposed lapse, and you are now saying that, look, the systems there are good, and what you have seen corresponds with the systems that are there. So it means your system is good. So those existing systems are actually your benchmark for excellence. And the fact that the GRA does not use SML figures to calculate taxes is enough explanation that the existing systems are superior to what SML gives. The only problem that, or the difference that some GRA officials told us between the existing figures and also SML's figures was that the SML meters were actually also calculating inter-depot transfers. So if they are transferring products from Accra Plains Depot in Tema to Chase Petroleum Depot in Tema, the SNO figures counted those ones. So their meters captured those ones. But inter-transfer depot, inter-depot transfers are not products that leave the depot. So maybe you have a depot in Tema, you have another depot in, let's say, Takoradi, and then your product in Takoradi is finished. You want to bring a product from Tema to your depot in Takoradi. Their figures just captures everything without segregating the differences. And the GRA officials say that they make revenue only when petroleum product is lifted from the depots and sold to the consumer. Otherwise, once the product is there, nobody makes any revenue out of it. And two, the problem existed from the lifting to the market. And from the lifting to the market, SML does not play any role. It is the MPA and third-party companies that actually track the lifting, how that it moves, to tell exactly the amount of fuel that is in every tank of the filling stations across the country. You may want to take a visit to the MPA and get to the control of National Command Center, and you would appreciate how robust the systems are. And we spoke with GIA officials who actually said, look, with the ERGMS, we're able to account for the volume, and once we account for the volume, we can account for our revenue. Now, this same GRA issues a statement and they are attributing the success to SML, which in my view raises a number of questions.
Right, we'll get to the GRA statement in a bit, but in the documentary, in relation to extending this particular contract to the upstream sector, you raised the issue of the regulator, the Petroleum Commission, the answers you sought for them invoking the RTI Act, and the questions that you solicited from them. And the impression I got watching the documentary was that the regulator was unaware of the contract, was unaware of the problems that we sought to deal with in the sector.
You are right, Randy. That's the biggest challenge with understanding why the Minister for Finance took that decision. We thought that if you are going to fix something, then it should be broken. If you are providing a solution, then there should be a problem. So, who regulates the upstream sector? The National Petroleum Authority. So we actually wrote to the
Petroleum Commission.
Petroleum Commission. Yes, the Petroleum Authority regulates the downstream sector. So we wrote to the Petroleum Commission asking whether they have identified any leakages or any accidental or deliberate action from any causes that makes us lose revenue in this sector, for which reason we are going to pay so much to a company to assure the revenue. And the regulator says, no, I don't know about this contract we are talking about. And I don't know of any problem. We don't have any report of any such problem in the sector. That is where I think the discussion should go. If there is no problem, and then you are taking a company to plug into the system and pay them close to $40 million every single year, then Ken Ofori-Atta deserves, or Ghanaians deserve answers from Ken Ofori-Atta. What informed his decision to do this when the regulator, which should have even reported that these are problems in the sector and we need to fix them, is even not aware? And anybody who may have their doubts can speak to players in the industry. There is this propaganda going out there that the cartels that have been exposed by SML are behind us and they are not happy with SML's way to do this. Let me place it on record here, Randy. I haven't said it anywhere. Let me place it on record. And you can ask GRA or SML. SML does not check any company. It has never detected any wrongdoing. So the OMCs that make products and do all manner of things with it, SML has no business with them. SML is not even policing them at all. So it is impossible to say that these OMCs that were giving us so much problems have issues with SML's operation. They don't even know. A lot of them didn't even know that SML existed until we brought out this documentary. So SML is not tackling any of those problems. And if you watch the documentary, they actually admitted that they are not doing them and they deleted. So if you are not, there's no problem in the upstream sector, and then the regulator doesn't know, then we should be asking why someone will sleep, wake up, order the GRA. I've determined that we should expand this, and I've attached a contract. My legal department, the legal department at the Ministry of Finance has reviewed it. Since we signed the initial contract together, go ahead, make inputs and sign when there is no problem.
Now, Manaseh, I'm sure that you've seen the statement by SML on your documentary. It's a 14-point statement. They raise issues about, they start by saying that there were a set of misrepresentations, false claims, and a general lack of understanding of the entire operations. They speak about duration of a contract. They say it's 5, not 10. It is not true that they take 100 million annually. They say it's purely a figment of your imagination and it's not factual. And they're saying that it's solely a risk-reward contract. GRA invests nothing in the entire investment chain. There's no commitment costs. They say 31% of the earnings go to GRA as tax. If your work was good intention and professional, you'd have established their investment cost and compared it to earnings to make an informed position. They are challenging you to produce any evidence of wrongdoing in the contract arrangement. Their charging formula is standard in the industry. Their work forms the base data at the depots for revenue assurance and auditing. They go on to the figures, the historical figures and all that, and use that to justify their work. And they say that the ERDM MS is not adequate and not suitable in giving revenue assurance to the GRA, and that the system was just created for the MPA's operations and it doesn't provide revenue assurance for tax purposes. They speak about how they have installed ultrasonic flow meters to check volumes and all that. Customs, they climb a ladder and they do DP and all those things. And they speak about their expertise. They have people who have up to 25 years expertise from Ghana and America and all that. What's your reaction to the statement from SML?
Well, we saw contract, and I think I forwarded some figures to you.
Yes.
And then we saw 10 years. If it has been reduced to 5 years, that is among them. We wrote for the contract they should publish the documents they have so that we all see. You cannot keep those documents and then what we had, we published. So they haven't told us our documents are fake or whatever, but they should publish what they are referring to. The $100 million, Randy, I have stated how we got them. And in research, you publish your method and anybody can verify. What we said is that this company is paid up to 24 million Ghana cedis a month for the existing contract. In a year, you can multiply and then convert it to US dollars. It's about $20 million if you do your conversion. Then that's a downstream contract. Then if you go to the gold mining contract, we have stated in the documentary how we came by the figures, that we
used last year's figures, production figures, for instance, and we did 3.7 million ounces of gold, and the Ministry of Finance pegged the price this year at $1,800. So if you multiply $1,800 by the 3.7 million ounces, you get about 7 billion and something. If you take 0.75% of that figure, you should be in the range of $50 million in a year. We have stated that the petroleum sector, upstream, this company, the contract says they should take $0.75 per barrel of oil that is produced every day. The number of barrels that Ghana produces every day is common knowledge. It's between 160,000 and 170,000, but in our calculation, we even use the conservative 160,000. Anybody at all can just take a calculator and mention or multiply 160,000 by $0.75. The figures will be there. So we are not just saying that, okay, this is how much the company is making as a result of these new additions without explaining how. And the figures we are making a reference to are public figures. We took them from the government websites and government books and all of that. So these are real issues. If the SML says that the ERDMS is not adequate, then the question SML and GRA should be asking us is, why are they using the ERDMS to calculate taxes or revenue instead of the SML? The GRA customs system is connected to the ERDMS. It is not connected to SML. So if you are claiming that your system is superior, why is your employer not using what you are churning out, but using that of the SML? So a lot of these, and if you talk about the tank gauging, which they now want to make a major point, when we went to chase petroleum in Tema, for instance, those entities already have meters there, so that before you even climb the tank to do the gauging, you know how much is in the tank. The NPA was engaged in DSCCV, a massive tank gauging system covering the whole country and hundreds of thousands of filling stations or thousands of filling stations. And what they said is this: they are able to sit in their office and tell how much fuel is in each of the tanks at Aveno Shell station, or the Guel station in Bolgatanga, or the Allied filling station in, let's say, Adar Junction. These are systems that the NPA was installing. And what they said, they just needed to just extend it to the depots. The depots are very few, so that they have an end-to-end, knowing what is in the depot filling station. They are able to track every truck that moves to the filling stations across the country, and all of a sudden, they see SML jumping into it. And that's why you hear the NPA CEO, Dr. Mustafa Hamid, saying he considered what was happening potentially duplicitous. So if SML is challenging the efficiency of the ERDMS, you have the customs head of petroleum, Samson Enim, saying in that documentary that with the ERDMS, they are able to get their volumes right. And once you get your volumes right, you get your revenues right. So these are not things we are saying. If you look at the documentary, we didn't make any of those claims. We have officials of customs, officials of the MPA, officials of SML, and other private players saying what was happening. So I don't think that I've gone through the response and it's very empty.
Now, Manaseh, let's go to the GRA response. We've watched the documentary. We've watched the GRA officials. But if you look at the statement issued by the GRA, it is actually saying things that are contrary to what its officials told the Fourth Estate. In fact, they are saying that they restate that the consolidated contract, which is a risk-reward contract, seeks to bring efficiency in revenue assurance services provided to GRA. SML per the contract is required to provide resources for the execution of the contract. By implication, if there is no value addition, SML is not paid. In short, the principle of risk and reward is the fulcrum of the contract. 2, the contract is for 5 years and is performance-based and approved under Section 40 of the PPA Act. The board and management affirmed that all legal and proper processes were followed in procuring the service of SML. SML solely financed the capital expenditures and cutting-edge technology that is employed in the monitoring and auditing services provided to GRA in the downstream petroleum sector. And they say they are confident that with the introduction of various initiatives, technology and revenue assurance measures, such as this, GRA will continue to see a significant increase in revenue, such as the about 50% year-on-year increase in revenue this year. However, they will continue to explore more methods of blocking leakages and increasing compliance to enable us attain a national tax to GDP ratio of over 18%. In fact, this is what they say. And what they say is actually contrary to what the officials told you in the documentary.
You are right, and the officials we went round with are officials from the Petroleum Department of the GRA. Day to day, they are at the depots, they know what is happening, and they said, look, we were even shocked when we heard the claims made by SML. And these officials actually said on record that even without systems such as the SML and the ERDMS and the rest at the depots, it is almost impossible to lose revenue. They talk about value addition, and it isn't true because whatever the company is going to make is not based on value. They are not going to refine the oil we produce. They are not going to refine the gold we produce. They are just going there to so-called monitor. And every liter you consume, every liter of petroleum product you consume, this company has a share in the downstream sector.
Maybe the
upstream,
value,
every barrel we produce, they have a share. Every ounce of gold we produce, they have a share.
Yeah, Manaseh,
So
maybe the
I
value
know we are talking about.
Yeah, Manaseh, maybe the value addition refers to their work actually adding value to our revenue. That, for example, but for their work, we would have made A, their work is going to add B to A, and therefore that is value addition within the context of revenue generation for the state.
I think that, Randy, I watched Senior Kwesi Pratt say on this show that he's not an expert, but at least he has common sense. I believe GRA officials have common sense, and I believe GRA officials are very competent. I have worked with some of them, and during this documentary, I can see that they are very competent. So the management should at least consider some of these things in the context of common sense and answer this question. Why is it that every year when the Ghana Revenue Authority is setting targets of revenue they are collecting, they project higher, not lower than the previous years? Take from, let's say, 1990 to 2023. Every year when they are doing the projection of the revenues they are going to take for the state, they often say if they project, let's say, 5 million this year, whether or not they meet the target next year, they are going to project 6 or 7 million. In the coming year, they say 10 million. They do this because the economy grows, population grows, and businesses grow. So that every year we are expected to earn more in terms of revenue than the previous years. So if this authority is now telling us that we are going to discount all other factors and that any growth that comes from the sector, we are going to attribute it to this company as its value and pay, that is problematic. If this company goes to monitor and then Tullow does not produce oil, ENI shuts down and all the productions shut down, what value are they going to add? So this company is not adding value. We have Newmont, we have Anglo Gold Ashanti, we have all of those mining companies. If they increase their production capacity, we are going to get more value. We are even told that the Pecan oil field is likely to be developed. And then we are going to have 80 more barrels per day, 80,000 more barrels per day when it is finished. So when others make investment in the sector, common sense tells everybody that the more investment, the more they increase production, the more revenue we are going to make. So the variables that increase the revenue have nothing to do with SML. If we were consuming 10 million liters of petroleum in 2020, and then 2023, we are consuming, let's say, 15 million liters, the common sense argument should be, well, we have more people buying cars, we have more industries coming in, so it is likely that we will have more people consuming petroleum product. That is why people go to take and then sell more. So if they are going to discount everything, including the superior systems that are already in place, the question we should be asking the finance minister is, as we speak, are there no monitorings in the oil production sector and then the gold production sector that ensure that Ghana makes revenue? Yes, we have them. Are they broken? According to the regulators, we have no evidence of anything broken. So why are they moving in there? That is what the finance ministry should be telling us. And I think in all of this, the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, should be held to perhaps stricter accountability than even the GRA, because if you read the GRA statement, they said that, look, we were directed by the Ministry of Finance. And this is a ministry that says we should pay e-levy. And what this company will be making a loan from this deal every year is more than the entire e-levy that is collected. It is greater than the budgetary allocations for 19 out of the 27 ministries. What they got in the 2024 budget, what SML will be making in a year as a result of this contract is more than that. So we are not talking about very ordinary figures. So we should be getting perhaps better answers from the finance minister. If it is not broken, why do you want to fix it?
Manaseh, let me congratulate you and your team. I've watched the documentary about 3 times. I think that is a very, very balanced. All sides have been taken into account. My favorite program on NPR in America was All Things Considered. All things really have been considered. I think that is very balanced. All sides have had the opportunity of speaking to the issues and all that. Congratulations for a great job done. From a journalistic point of view, you've done your bit. But I'm sure that for most Ghanaians, they will ask, what next?
Well, thank you for the kind words, Randy. The what next question should come from the special prosecutor. It should come from the Parliament of Ghana, which says it would look into this. It should come from the President of the Republic of Ghana, who told us that he wasn't coming to steal our money and that he was coming to ensure that these leakages were stopped. Ghanaians are watching. President Akufo-Addo, there is evidence that over 100 million US dollars is going to go out to a company, and there is evidence that this company does not add any value, and the systems are already in place to check. So if he's going to sit down for this to happen, and we have old men and women who have served this nation diligently, and when they are on retirement, they can't even access their bonds, their own savings, and they have to picket. Some have to struggle to go through dialysis and all of that. If we have a president with conscience watching on and these monies are going out, I think he should stand up and say no. As for this deal, let's discontinue it and save the nation money. Otherwise, there is a saying that openitina fiena or shemo from a woman and can ye kind and can we for ye kind of come. So, if he watches them to eat the forbidden meat, and we are counting the eaters of forbidden meat, we cannot exclude him. There is enough evidence. And if he does not believe in what we have put out, even with all the voices and the opinions and the input from GRA, MP, and others, he should commission a team to speak to players in the industry. The BDCs, the OMCs, a lot of them are reaching out to me and saying, look, you've done a good job. This company is just taking money for nothing. But the system is so vindictive that if we go out to support you, we will be victimized. If the president is minded to know the truth, he will. And at least this country should be given some modicum of hope, because you have young people leaving this country desperately. Some have no jobs, and we aren't too poor to at least afford dialysis machines in our hospitals. It is because the hundreds of millions that will go into the provision of healthcare are diverted somewhere. And then the average person who falls sick would have to struggle. I had to bring my father from Bolga to Accra to get an MRI scan because there's no MRI scan in the whole of northern Ghana, MRI machine. So we had to bring him here. And when we had to even do surgery, we had to wait. We got dates, they cancelled and all of us. We eventually had to go back without doing the surgery. The reality in our system is so dire that when you find these monies going out, it isn't about Manaseh doing journalism. It is about life and death. And we have a president, if we have a president who swore to protect our interest, this is the time for him to act.
Manaseh, thank you very much for waking up this early and for having this discussion with us. We're most grateful, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you very much for having me.